I don't think fame is like a natural thing. It's so unnatural to put people on a pedestal and expect them to be perfect. And the music industry in Kenya still makes no sense. Be with me, oh, here with me, oh, be with me, oh, here with me, oh. Hi, my name is Karun, and you're watching Singleton Stories with Biko Zulu. Where does the music come from? I want to say it comes from beyond, because sometimes songs just arrive at the most random times. Like when I've just woken up, maybe if I'm in the shower, if I'm driving. Actually, I've written a lot of songs while I was driving. Like I'll just have like my voice note running, and I'll be in the car singing, and like I'll write maybe a whole verse in the car. So when I was growing up, I was just surrounded by music because my dad would play a lot of songs. I think his dad loved music as well. He owned a record shop. So music has always just been in our blood in that way. My grandma, my dad's mom loves music. She loves country music. So my dad specifically loves jazz, funk, R&B, soul, blues. Like he's in that area. My dad would play very powerful women, like the music of like Tina Turner, Shaka Khan. And the ones that I remember, actually the songs that my aunt played, she played me like blues music, like Nina Simone, Ma Rainey, just like classic blues music. That's what I remember hearing when I was younger, but I don't know if that really influenced my music. I think I've heard so many different kinds of music over the years, but the way I end up singing is like more soulful. Definitely picked up from my dad and my aunts. Yeah, my mom is an artist. She does fashion design, and so I was always with her in the shop. She had a fashion shop in Westlands. I was always seeing the bright colors, the textiles, the African print, and she also was connected to my grandmother's fashion college. So I was around all of that creativity when I was growing up.
Camp Mulla is in the house. At the moment, you are the biggest thing in Africa.
Money is the motive, music is the way. Camp Mulla is the name. And we love you.
We love you very much.
So Camp Mulla started when I was in high school now. Kind of right early on, when I had like just joined high school, I was probably like 13, 14. And somebody that I met in high school, her name was Zara. She became like one of my best friends at the time. And she was cousins with Marcus, who was a producer for Camp Mulla. She knew that I loved to sing. I was always singing, always producing in school. And one day she was like, hey, do you want to meet my cousin? I don't even remember what led to this, but like her house was right next to the studio where we used to record. So she introduced me to Teo, Shapa, Marcus, who were already making music. They would do cyphers, they would make mixtapes. They had like a weekly thing that they did on Facebook where they would like release music. But they had multiple artists like come in and collaborate with them. Like Camp Mulla wasn't set up at the time, but I think eventually they wanted to take it seriously, and they invited me, and I did a couple songs with them. Like I think it was just one day of just like vibing and hanging out, and we made music. And I remember at the end of it, Teo stopped me and he was like, Karun, I need to talk to you. Teo can be so serious sometimes. So he took me outside the studio and he's like, so us guys want to do this like for real, like we want to do this seriously, and we really like what you're doing. Like, okay, it's like perspective, we're like 14 and Teo is being serious like this. So it's kind of comical, but he was like, do you want to be a part of our group? I'm calling it Camp Mulla. Teo came up with the name, and I was like, yeah, sure. And at that time I didn't really know what that meant. It was just like, cool, let's make music together, sure. And then my mom was actually down. My parents were down and they supported me. And yeah, we continued to hang out in studio, make music together. For the most part, we were just making hip hop. It was kind of like conscious rap. We were making very like, if you look back, our music was pretty alternative, but it was like grounded in hip hop. And then we were playing around with sounds one day. I think Marcus wanted us to play at 6 a.m. Like, it's kind of like a party that used to happen back then. It was house music, electronic music. He was like, guys, we want to play. I want us to play at this event. Let's make music that would fit this like kind of nightlife thing that was happening at the time. And so he experimented with house music, and Party Don't Stop was one of the first songs that we made like that. And I mean, we loved it. It was very different from what we were making before. And then everybody loved it. And we ended up on radio, ended up finding somebody who like shot a music video for us. And I think, yeah, the rest is history. That took us from just like making music for our friends and high school people to all of a sudden touring in South Africa, Rwanda, UK. We're supposed to go to the UK. We got nominated for BET Awards. Like, it was all because of that song. So yeah, that was crazy. That was literally 0 to 100 real fast. I got to go into record labels. I got to meet some of my idols. That was all pretty amazing, and it's very humbling to be in these situations. I think fame, like being famous at such a young age, definitely shaped me the way that I am right now. It was pretty intense. I mean, it was dope. Obviously, being famous can have like really dope things, like getting into clubs for free, being in the VIP, having everybody want to buy you free stuff. We all know that side of things, but I think people don't also realize that being young and being open and being very just fresh and being famous and having everybody kind of want a piece of you can also take a toll on you. That's true. I guess it's very different to watch fame from the outside than to actually know what it feels like to be famous. I think it was a lot, and I'm still like unpacking the different ways that affected me like years later. A lot like, I mean, trolling is a thing now. Everybody knows that trolling like online is a thing, but like back then, the internet was still kind of young, which is mad, because I'm not even old. There were a couple articles, like people just feel like they can say anything about you. And just like the perspective of being a young person who's just been like kind of thrust into that world overnight, basically. It was weird. Yeah, and then like when you leave that world, I took myself out like pretty intentionally so I could grow. Trying to go back to like innocence and go back to trusting people and go back to just being open again can be kind of hard. I mean, I'm an introvert, so it was always a lot, but I think I handled it pretty well considering that I was in a group. That was really helpful. So I didn't have to deal with it alone. Yeah, when we'd go out, I'd always have people. We always rolled with like a crew. But I mean, I'm a very chill person. I'm a homebody, so it wasn't always the most fun. Being a lot of obligations and it feeling like this isn't really what we signed up for. So when I look back on Camp Mulla and people ask me like, what happened? Why did you guys break up? Da, da, da. At that time, I was 15. I don't know what happened. I just knew we didn't know what we were doing. We are international level superstars in an industry that has no structure. But you're 15. You have to figure out who the hell you are. And how to figure out who you are is by making mistakes, right? Like even to this day, we don't have an act that can be exported globally that can function from here. Like we're still not there yet. I've been in the music industry for like 10 years, for like 11, 12 years even maybe. And the music industry in Kenya still makes no sense. it's still extremely difficult to continue thriving here. And so the few select like successful artists that you could say that are making it, it still kind of baffles me that we can continue going, because the industry isn't very forgiving, I think, in terms of like artists put so much into their music, so much time and money and effort and creativity, that eventually, like in the long run, it honestly, it stops making sense to me. Over your skin, let me be. Floating fingers over your skin like I know you wanna feel me. So at first when I left Kenya, I went to California. I went to a school called Cal Arts. And I didn't feel like I could really study what I wanted to study there, so I moved to Boston. Boston is very cold. It's a very cold place. I say that because when I moved, it was like right in the middle of winter, and I had never seen snow before in my life. Like, it was a historically like cold winter. It took me maybe a couple months to get used to it, but then it also led to, that's now where I started realizing about my mental health. There's such a thing called seasonal depression, which happens like very often in the winter, and that is what happened to me. And that was the first time that I was on medication for depression, at the same time as being in like one of the most prestigious music colleges in the world, being excited about that, doing a lot of like really great things, meeting a lot of great people. And so being in Boston was very much a lot in all different directions. But I found, I'm getting emotional, but like I found, I have no idea why I'm getting emotional, but like I found comfort. The people that I lived with. Sure. I feel like this is just emotion that wants to come out, so I'm just gonna let it out because it makes.
Yeah. I'm just crying, it's okay. It's fine.
Oh yeah, I miss you when we're apart, yeah. Hit me up. Oh yeah, I miss you when we're apart, yeah. Hit me up.
So like after Camp Mulla disbanded and I went to the States, I kind of like came into my own, lived on my own, got to discover who I was, like on my own, like I got to grow into myself. I realized that I have anxiety. That's because I got diagnosed for it. I have generalized anxiety, but I also suspect that I have social anxiety. Anxiety can show up as overthinking and like over analyzing a situation that hasn't happened yet. Even just like being in a bus with like many people and having kind of like just feeling like there's no stable ground beneath your feet. Anxiety can be shortness of breath. You can have panic attacks. It can show up in very many different ways. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had a panic attack when I was in uni, actually. That was the first time that I had ever experienced anything like that before. So panic attacks are not normal for me. That's not the way I experience anxiety. But that was when I realized, like, huh? You really do have this thing. You know, it's not just like, you know, some people can say that like these mental health issues are a white thing, you know? People can be like, oh, you just went to the US and you come back with all these ideas in your head. But like, it can be a real physical thing. Would I want to be famous again? Honestly, I don't mind because I want to make music. I want to make music for the rest of my life. I want to perform. And if that's something that comes with me following my passion, you know, everything, if you want to be like really successful at something, you have to make some kind of sacrifice. So I'm prepared to make that sacrifice. But I mean, I don't think fame is like a natural thing. It's so unnatural to put people on a pedestal and expect them to be perfect, expect them to know the right things to say in political situations. It's like I'm a musician. I've studied music. That's what I want to be perfect at. Well, I'm not even perfect. That's what I want to express myself as. But like celebrities are expected to be perfect in everything, which is super unnatural. Promise that of something more, threw it out the door. Sometimes letting go propels you forward. I know what you're waiting for. Yeah, being a group and being a solo artist is very, very, very different. So in terms of decision making, it's all me. In terms of coming up with the entire song, for the most part, it's all me. It's very different. I feel like it was necessary for me to grow up and kind of be a solo artist. I am always experimenting with my sounds. Right now, I'm working with R&B, playing with Afro beats, and kind of just being in the pop world, which is something I never thought I would do. I always thought I was gonna be alternative, alte, experimental, and I still kind of am. It's like I still have those indie sounds that I bring into like the pop music that I make. I'm definitely not like mainstream pop, but I'm finding it really cool to be in this time where pop music can be very many different things. I know that the fans, or even just listeners who are not even specifically my fans, will always say, oh, do this, make gengetone, go back to hip hop or something. You know, just like people always tell you what to do. And I've always been like, no, I'm gonna do this instead, or I'm gonna do this instead. But the cool thing about this part of my life is I feel like I've found something that intersects, something that people like, and something that I really like. Yeah, yeah. My creative process changes depending on what setting I'm in. So if I'm like collaborating with an artist, we'll have to have a beat so that we're both like on the same page. Sometimes, actually. We'll just play it over and over again. I'll like mumble some things, and whatever direction that the feeling of the song takes us first is usually where we end up. Like we'll pick a theme from that feeling, we'll pick a vibe from that feeling, and we'll go in that direction. And it can be the same with my music as well. Or I can have a melody in my head and I'll lay it down like with my vocals. I go where the music takes me. I think motherhood has just put me on the right path, maybe. It hasn't really like informed my music directly, although I have made some songs about my son. But it's more that music has reminded me that this is really what I want to be doing, and if I'm going to do it, I have to do it like at 1001%. Now, because I'm a parent, I can't like half, can I say ass? I can't half-ass anything at this point. When I found out I was going to have a son, I wasn't surprised, and I was ready. I was ready to have a child. So that's where the decision to continue on the journey came from. I enjoy the fact that my son, well, he surprises me every day, but he shows me that he's very much himself. And so anything that I want to project onto my son, every day he shows me that he's very much himself. And that makes me feel really good, because it also makes me see other people very differently. It's like, you were probably like this from when you were a kid. You know, you have your innate character, your personality, and your you-ness from when you're very young. I'm an introvert. He's an extrovert. I like to do art and kind of like be in like very calm spaces. He loves to talk. He loves to be in parties. He loves to tell stories. Yeah. Okay, well, if you're a young girl who just wants to get into music right now, I'd say figure out how you best express yourself in music and learn how to have control over that. And when I say that, I mean like learn production, maybe. learn how to record yourself at least, or learn an instrument. Or if those are not the ways that you function, at least learn the business of music or get like a really good lawyer. But all the above, if possible, like do all of that.